Hello, everybody, and welcome. My name is Paula Houghton. I'm the Director of Outreach and Engagement at Foundations, Inc. And I would like to thank you all for joining us today for this Beyond School Hours follow-up webinar. Before we get started, I'd just like to give you a little bit of background about Foundations. We're a national education nonprofit located in Mount Laurel, New Jersey. And our mission is to improve the quality of education by building the skill of educators. We work across the school day with after-school programs, schools, districts, and states to create a brighter future for every child every day. If you're interested in learning more about Foundations, you can take a minute to follow us on social media, and I'll drop that information in the chat. You might know us from our signature professional learning experience, Beyond School Hours Conference. This conference is held annually in February, and in 2023, we're going to be back in Orlando from February 9th to 12th, and we'd love to see you all there. Today, we are so thrilled to have this amazing group from the Afterschool Alliance. We've got Alexis Steinis, Tiana Glenn, and Sophie Kidd. And without any further ado, I will turn it over to you guys.
Thanks, Paula. Well, welcome everybody. We're so excited to be able to join you this afternoon to talk a little bit about how to message our after-school programs. How do we talk about them? How do we tell our story in order to be able to gain support and draw attention to the incredible work that you are all doing every day in the field, and to ensure that our programs stay funded and supported and continue to be a key part of educational opportunities in this country. So we have some slides that we're going to share with you. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the research base and ways that you can be able to talk about after school programming. And we'll also talk a little bit about the kinds of messages that you may want to use, and then do a little bit of an activity as well to break down how you can be able to create your own messages that you can then take back to your community to share with others. So just by a quick way of introduction this morning, my name is Alexis Steinis Rao. I'm the Vice President of Field Outreach here at the Afterschool Alliance. Some of you I've seen before because I have gone to many a Beyond School Hours conference, so it's wonderful to be able to connect with you all virtually. Joining me today are two of my colleagues, Sophie Kidd, who's a project associate at the Afterschool Alliance and works closely with both our research and our outreach teams. She'll be talking a bit about some of the research that has gone into our messaging and understanding some trends in the field. And then Tiana Glenn, who's a project manager here at the Afterschool Alliance, who works closely with me on the field outreach team with speaking at conferences, trainings, and overall helping to share best practices in the field. So we're very excited to be able to speak with you today. So just a brief overview of who we are as the Afterschool Alliance. We are an organization that is working to ensure that all children have access to affordable, high-quality after-school programs. We are continuously trying to find ways to expand after-school and summer learning opportunities so that any child, no matter where they live, has the opportunity to participate in these life-changing opportunities for enrichment, for academic purposes, to just be able to participate in those really engaging and hands-on learning opportunities in a safe location. And we do this work in a couple of different ways. So we work at both the grassroots and the grass tops level. We work with a variety of national partners around the country. Foundations, Inc. is one of them. We work with many, many others to really be able to try and spread the message of why after school is important, how it benefits children and youth, and why it is something that really should continue to be supported. Nationwide, we work with 25,000 after-school program providers. And it's very easy for you to work with us. You just have to sign up for our email list. Everything we provide is free of charge. Our goal is to try and get information to you, whether it's about best practices, trends in the field, understanding what is happening in DC in terms of policy. We're here as a resource, and we want to be able to share those resources with you. Additionally, we work across the country with the 50 statewide after-school networks. Each state has a state network that focuses on doing many of the things that we do here on the national level, also on the state level. So it's providing technical training and assistance, understanding state policy and legislation. They are great resources. If you aren't familiar with your state network, strongly encourage that you get to know them. And if you visit our website, there's a section called In Your State. From there, you can be able to link with your state network. And I can drop that link in the chat in just a few minutes. Additionally, we work with over 200 after-school ambassadors at the local level who are individuals out there talking about their programs, sharing the great things that are going on, and essentially putting these messages that you're going to learn today into practice, whether it's talking to the media, talking to policymakers, whoever it may be. And we also work with dozens of AmeriCorps Vista members that are located in states to be able to try and help build up the infrastructure to continue to support after school programming. So there's lots of different angles in which we do this. And part of what we do is also working with all of you to be able to help you think through how to talk about your programs and how great they are. So to kick us off this afternoon, what I want to do is just open with a question. What words come to mind when you hear the phrase after school programs? Drop some of your thoughts into the chat box. We're curious to hear what it is that you think of when you hear after school. Are there good connotations to this? So I think we do have some: safe and supportive environment, enrichment, engaging, safe places for students, fun activities, fun and engaging activities. But there's a couple in here. Babysitting, not necessarily as positive a connotation. That oftentimes is something that we're battling against, what the perception of these programs are. We know that it's this enriching environment, that there's, it's a safe environment with caring adults. Students are able to explore their interests, participate in activities that are hands-on, or seek some support for maybe their homework, explore their interests, whether it's theater or sports or whatever this topic may be. But many people that are not working in the after-school space sometimes perceive these programs as merely just babysitting or or watching children, that there's not a whole lot of engagement, that there's not learning that's going on. This is really just a place for kids to be, and that's it. And what we want to try and do today is help equip you with some messages to talk about how after school is much more than that, how it is how it's an opportunity for children and youth to expand their interests, to grow academically, to participate in exciting and enrichment opportunities in an engaging fashion. So thank you for sharing that in the chat. I'm now going to turn it over to Sophie, who's going to talk a little bit about some of the research that we've done at the After School Alliance to try and figure out the best way of talking about our programs. So Sophie.
Amazing. All right, I'm making sure that I am unmuted, and I'm so excited because I get to talk with you all about two of my very favorite things, research and after school. And so, as you can see on this slide, we're talking about advocating for after school. And as Alexis mentioned, also, if you have any questions throughout, Alexis and Tiana, let me know if there's anything in the chat, or feel free to come off mute and ask any questions you might have. So let's talk about telling the after school story with the help of some research findings. So as you can see here, unmet demand for after school is skyrocketing. The After School Alliance, we have an America After 3 p.m. survey that we've been administering since 2004. And as you can see here, this unmet demand for programs has grown 60% since that started in 2004. And if after school programs were available to all of them, half of all non-participants, or nearly 25 million children, would take advantage of these programs. And as we dive deeper into this data, families expressing demand for after school, those families are families of color, families with low income, and those with children in elementary school are really more likely to want to participate in a program. And more students than ever are missing out. And for every one child in a program in 2020, there are 3 more who would be in an after school program if one was available to them. And in wave 7 of our after school in the time of COVID-19 survey, which was answered by 948 providers who represent 5,500 sites across 50 states and the District of Columbia in March and April of 2022, we asked them, what are your highest concerns right now? And they shared that difficulties hiring and or retaining staff and student waitlists were at the top of their minds. And as you can see on the right here as well, 1/3 of programs are operating at reduced capacity, and 80% of providers who are operating at that reduced capacity say it's due to staffing shortages. And when we're really looking at this national level, when we're looking at this national level, low-income families are most affected by this decline in participation. And between 2014 and 2020, the number of low-income kids in after school fell by nearly 2 million, while the number of higher income kids dropped by less than 500,000, as you can see here. And as we're looking at these barriers to participation, these are even bigger among low-income families. We're looking at costs of programs, lack of available programs, and transportation issues. And as a result of those barriers, the unmet demand for after school has increased and is greater among low-income families. And I'll take a minute for y'all to absorb the findings that are on the screen because they're so important. And we're also looking at, as you can see, cost is a major driver behind this decline in participation among low-income participants and families. And it points to the lack of available and affordable programs nationwide. And this decline in programs, unfortunately, comes as public investments in after-school programs have largely stalled and have not kept up with the growing demand. I'm sure that a lot of you all are familiar with the 21st Century Community Learning Centers, or 21 CCLC, which is a federal funding stream dedicated to before and after school and summer learning. And adjusted for inflation, this funding in 2022 is $87 million below the 2014 level. So you all can see what's at stake and how important this is. And at the same time, support for public funding for after-school opportunities is up from 84% in 2014 to 87% overall. And this intensity of the support has grown too. And as you can see here, this strong level of support really cuts across party lines, ethnicity, and geography across the country. And 87% of parents favor public funding, which I think that's so important. And really in the wake of the pandemic, and as we're dealing with this ongoing crisis, parents nationally are continuing to see after-school programs as this resource to promote their child's growth and development. And it's also helping parents maintain or find employment. And you can see that 77% of parents agreed that Congress should provide additional funding for after-school programs to operate during virtual school days, as we were surveying folks in 2020. And while we're on the topic of COVID funding, we're really curious to hear from you all as well. And we'd love for you to throw in the chat, has your after-school program received any COVID relief funding? Maybe you've talked to districts or a local education agency about funding, or maybe partnered with a school or district to receive funding. And if you have, we'd love to know what has worked, or maybe what hasn't worked, or if there's been any barriers to you talking with districts, LEAs, or other folks. So I'll give everyone a chance to answer that. Thank you, Alexis. Awesome. And yep, Dawn, I think we'll be able to share these slides afterwards. Thanks. I'll give folks a couple more seconds. And also feel free, if you think of something later in the presentation, to throw it in the chat. We'll save this. Awesome. Okay. And this really comes back to what Alexis mentioned at the start. We need to tell the story of after school, no matter who you're talking with, across the board in conversations with decision makers, governors, SEAs, childcare agencies, school district leaders, really anybody at all levels. We have to elevate the importance of after school and summer. And as we all know, kids are really spending more time than ever outside of school. And after school and summer providers have stepped up to help young people and their families connect with schools, and also with essential community resources and supports like food assistance, access to healthcare, mental health supports, and so much more. And as we move through this pandemic, we really need to ensure that there's that well-rounded support for young people and families. And after-school providers are such an important space for learning, and they're that valuable connector between schools, home, and additional services that are and will continue to be needed. And we really need to make that case at a wide variety of levels. And now I'm going to dive into a little bit of the messaging research that we've done at the Afterschool Alliance. So here's kind of this full picture of this message research journey. You can really see the three primary questions that we looked at here. So we're looking at what are those values that should lead messaging, building that support around after school. What messages are best going to resonate with specific audiences? How can we better communicate this value of after school to audiences who are typically maybe less supportive? And we really took a multi-phase approach with our process here. So you can see interviews with education and business leaders. We've got parent focus groups, online engagement with those education opinion influencers, as well as surveying those adults into different national polls. So really, we were trying to cast the broadest net we possibly could. And you can see here some of those really top takeaways that we found. So really talking about leading with that aspirational language. So words like thrive, reaching full potential, and thinking about that value-driven language is so important. Thinking about connecting after school to learning, positioning it as this integral component in the learning process that we know it is, broadening that notion of safety, focusing on technology and social media, because those concerns remain around how children spend those hours between 3 and 6 p.m. And then also really being super explicit when you're describing those benefits of after school, which is so important. And we also really took a look at what images resonated most with folks. And so you can see here, love all these photos. And this really just, those stakeholders are picturing after school programs that involve teamwork, learning, we've got engagement, love the creativity. The top left is one of my favorite, I love it. And also importantly, fun. And these images also really reflect what we heard from those folks that we worked with in this process. So parents, education, and business leaders, everyone wants that inspirational learning opportunity for kids. And one of my favorite slides we have is this messaging roadmap. And as you can see on the top, we're really inspiring students to learn, keeping kids safe, giving working parents peace of mind. And everything really starts with this core message of those three main tenets. And then you can kind of use that audience to determine what additional aspects to reinforce. So with parents, you've got that peace of mind, work and family balance, gets kids excited about learning. Educators, we've got the increases interest in learning, provides mentorship, and sparks new interests. In business, we've got better productivity, helps kids gain skills like teamwork and problem solving. And so I think this slide is super important. And as we get into the following activities and the rest of that, keep this in top of mind, I think is really important. And we also wanted to do a little update because we did a fall 2020 survey of parents as well to kind of think about what parents are prioritizing during the pandemic and how you tell this after school story in the midst of COVID-19. And so as you can see here, what we really found is parents are looking for these holistic supports for their kids. Academics are a part of the story, but not the whole story. And you can see that physical activity, life skills, connecting with peers, which is so important in the midst of a pandemic, exciting my child about learning, are all super important things that came out of this survey. And yeah, that's all that I have for today. Thank you so much for letting me chat with y'all. Please let me know if you have any questions. Happy to answer them or throw any links to further information in the chat. Thanks so much. And I will turn it over to Tiana if not.
All right, seeing no questions in the chat box, we're going to keep on going. So thank you, Sophie, so much for that information. And now we're going to work on getting your message out there by crafting an elevator pitch. So imagine that you just stepped into an elevator with the President of the United States, or maybe a local official, a city council member, or a parent of a school-age child. You have about 30 seconds until you get off at their floor. What do you say so that they can remember about you and your program? So let's think about it. We're going to talk about an elevator pitch. So what is an elevator pitch? Elevator pitch is a practice 30 seconds or so speech that's really memorable. It captures the core of what your program offers. So an ideal elevator pitch also includes a call to action or an actionable step for the person that you're speaking with. So when crafting a winning elevator pitch, you want to make sure that you include the following tips. One, make it concise. Even if you're not in the elevator, you want to make sure that this pitch is roughly 30 seconds or so. So that way you keep it short and concise. Focus on the most important aspects of your work or how to capture the extent of your work in the briefest way possible. This also leaves room for the person that you're speaking with to ask follow-up questions. They might ask, what is it? Or you want to ask, like, what is it that they're most interested in? So now you can follow up on that point and understand what they want to know instead of you just guessing. The second one is know your ask. So this should look very different just based on who you're speaking with. So if you're speaking to a parent, you might want them to sign up their child, or you might want them to attend your open house. If you're speaking to an elected official, you might want to think about the timing and what's coming up. So I always say that a good go-to is asking them to visit your program or your event that you're planning. You also want to check in with your program administration about what you can ask based on your nonprofit employee status. The next area is making sure that you have a memorable stat. So statistics are tangible and they're seen as objective. Talking about how you're helping your students be more prepared for school is great, but showing them that impact that you're making is even better. So that said, I know many programs, sometimes do not have the capacity to accurately track their impact. Some, more a little creative or trying to get that data, but, it's still very meaningful to have data to include. So this could be as simple as including how many students and families are served. The population statistics are very, very helpful. How many years have you been in the community? Showing that you have state power is a very good indicator for local officials that you are a good person or a good organization to team up with. And then also survey data. So X number of families say that, the program has helped their students in demonstrating good behavior during the school day. And consider data that we provide at the Afterschool Alliance when you do not have specific program data. Remember to repeat the organization's name and identify information. Also, if you have a compelling anecdote, be sure to include that as well. So now that we went over tips, here's some things that you want to avoid. One is jargon and acronyms. Break down the terms that we take for granted. I am victim to this, especially, folks in the after school field. We are acronyming it left and right, saying things, ABCs, 1, 2, 3s, everything. So we want to make sure that we're breaking that down and that we're aware of our audience, because sometimes folks don't know the acronyms that we speak. Also, you want to make sure that your pitch isn't too complex. And then lastly, you want to avoid using the same elevator pitch with different audiences. So we kind of covered this a little bit already. I want to add that you want to consider what motivates that person you're speaking with, not just their position. So for example, you might have 2 elected officials that might be interested in the work of your program for 2 completely different reasons. So one, they might want to hear about your program that helps kids to keep kids safe while their parents are at work. And then you might have someone else that want to hear more about like social emotional learning. So you want to keep those 2 things in mind when it comes to creating your pitch. So here's a little sample of an elevator pitch that I'm going to read to you all. So hi, my name is Tiana and I'm the program director at Sunnyside Neighborhood After School Program. We run a 21st CCLC programming for students from all over the city. Our programs have really great results. Our kids love our programs and you should absolutely consider supporting Sunnyside Neighborhood After School Program. So now hearing that sample pitch in the chat, tell me some good things that you heard about this example. What were some pros about this example? Kids love the program. Yep, that's really good. If you're running a program, I would hope that the kids love coming to it. So yes, that's a good thing. We have great results. Another good thing about running a high quality program, you want to make sure that you're making an impact and you have results. Name the program. Yes, Sunnyside Neighborhood After School Program. Awesome. Okay, so on the flip side of things, what were some cons about this example? So what were some things that weren't necessarily the best when giving this elevator pitch? Oh, another pro was running program all over the city. Yes. Add data. I did not add that data. Acronyms. We love those acronyms, right? Yep. Anything else? Yep, stats. How do we support? That's a really good question. I don't think I said that in my sample, how we support the kids. I just said that they love the program and we got great results. So now let's do another example. And let's see if this one's just a little bit better. So hi, my name is Tiana and I am the program director at Sunnyside Neighborhood After School Program. We are a 21st Century Community Learning Center funded program serving 125 youth in 6th to 8th grade who attend Sunnyside Middle School. Our students participate in exciting activities including robotics, theater, soccer, and service projects, just to name a few. Our program has great results. In 2019, 98% of our 8th graders successfully transitioned to the 9th grade on time. We would like to expand our programming to serve more students, but transportation home at the end of the day is a challenge for many of our interested students. We would very much appreciate your support with a grant to fund buses to transport students who do not live in walking distance from our program. So now hearing that revised sample in the chat, how is this example better than the previous one? Great closing ask, yes. Or detailed, what the support will be used for, yes. You shared lots of important information. I did, and I'm quite sure I squeezed that in that 30-second time frame that I spoke about. As I read this more, I get a little better at it. So better description of who, let me see. Better description of who you are serving. Yes, what specific activities the students participated in. Tell more about the activities. Yes, 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 correct, everyone. So let's just highlight certain things that I added to this sample that was slightly different from the last one. So we broke down that acronym. Instead of 21st CCLC, I said 21st Century Community Learning Center funded program. Gave specifics on who we're serving and how many students we're serving. Included the actual activities that the students are participating in. Provided that data, that stat right there, 98% of our 8th graders successfully transitioned to the 9th grade on time. And then lastly, we wrapped up the pitch with our ask. So, you know, we have students that will love to be in our program, but we don't have transportation. So, you know, we will really appreciate a support of a grant to fund buses to transport students who do not live in walking distance to our program. Correct. So now we're going to take some time to practice crafting a winning elevator pitch in an interactive exercise. So now we're going to put it on you guys to work on these elevator pitches. So on the next slide, I will break down how you all participate in the exercise, but here on this slide, we're going to describe the activity. So you're going to take a few minutes to craft a pitch to a local city council member. And when crafting the pitch, I want you to remember the following questions. What do they prioritize? Why should they support you? What do you want them to do? Why is your work unique? And then what are some relevant stats or stories to share? So what we're going to do, and I think we're good on timing right now. The first thing we're going to do, we're going to have round one be just a practice round. So we're going to break out into groups shortly, and you're going to work with your group to create an elevator pitch for a program. And then you can make up a program. So just make up a program within your group, and we're going to give you a few minutes to create this pitch. Then we're going to come back and share with the group your pitch, and then you're going to receive feedback. We're all friends here. This is a safe space. So we are here to help you all, and we're here to give feedback and support. So when, receiving feedback, we're going to, answer the questions like what was compelling or what was unclear or what can be removed from your elevator pitch. And then for round two, we're going to go back into a breakout group. It's probably going to be a new group. So a new breakout group. And work on, and then this time I'm going to share an individual elevator pitch. So I really want you to focus on your actual organization or your program, an elevator pitch that you would most likely use in real life, in real term. So, and then we're going to come back again, share and receive feedback. And so I'm going to keep the slide up for reference. And at this time, I think we have about, how many folks do we have here? Almost 20. So it should be a good amount that will be able to go into breakout groups. So at this time, we're going to send you there. Feel free. I think a lot of us have our cameras off. That's totally fine, as long as you have audio, or you can use the chat function to work as a group. But we're going to spend no more than 5 minutes, I would say, in our first group for round one. So at this time, you will be sent to a breakout group. All right, I think we have everyone. So welcome back. Hopefully there's some great dialogue going on in those groups. So now we're back and let's do some sharing. So what was an example of an elevator pitch that you did with your group? So this one could have been a made up one, or maybe you decide to use your own for, this first group activity. So if you would, you can mute yourself to share, or you can drop it in the chat box, and I don't mind reading it out loud for the group. But do we have any volunteers that would like to share? Any takers? Not all at once. And if not, that's totally fine too. Or what were some discussions that you had in your group? So maybe, you all didn't necessarily work on a group pitch, but what were some things that came up as you worked together on your group pitch? Were there any questions or any additional thoughts that might have came up in your group?
I think one of the things that I always find challenging when doing these kinds of exercises and trying to create these kinds of pitches is just trying to really narrow down what I'm saying so that it fits within that 30-40 second time frame, because there's so much that I want to say. I'm trying to think about how to pull that out. What's some advice that you have around that?
So I think going back to our earlier tips of one, knowing who your audience is and trying to really hone in on what you want your takeaway to be. So if you know that you're struggling with enrollment in your program and you see a parent that is looking for an after-school program, honing in on, showing that your program is safe, showing that your program helps students with academics, showing that they help with maybe social emotional learning, and just closing off that, we do have open spots for enrollment. So if you'd like to sign your kids up, feel free to, chat with me today to talk more about it. So I think really honing in on the person and then things that you think they will be interested in to help wrap up that ask. That was a great question, Alexis. Thank you. And I see someone dropped something in the chat. I think we all can give everyone that drive. This is what my program does, but to make it exciting and unique to keep someone interested. And okay. Yeah, so I think that kind of goes along with what I was saying too with the Alexis, like knowing who your audience is and then knowing what you think they might be interested in. So you want to make sure that, your elevator pitch is exciting and that they will want to either join your program or they will want to fund your program. So you want to make sure that your program kind of comes to life as you're speaking about it. So I don't think I really touched on this on my previous slides as well, but I think tone has everything to do with it too, and your nonverbals. So you want to make people want to come to your program if they're an elected official. You want folks to fund your program. And I think it's all about tone and then what you're saying as well. So you want to make sure that it's not dry. You don't want to have a dry elevator pitch. You want to make sure that it's really exciting to keep someone interested. And yeah, essentially, yes, Sherry, you're right. You want to sell your program. That's exactly what you're doing. Selling your program to whoever you're speaking to. You want them to be convinced that maybe I should get some funding to this program, or maybe I should see what this program is about, or maybe I should enroll my student in this program. That's exactly what you're doing. Selling your program, essentially selling yourself as well. Amy said agreed. Thank you, Amy. I appreciate you agreeing with me. And so I know this from personal example because I used to be a program director. So I think that's why I get really excited talking about programs and even get excited about reading the example because I was that person. I was that person giving that example. It was a sunny side at the school program, but anytime that I met with people, I was always speaking about my program. And the more you practice this, you'll get better. And it will come natural just depending on whoever you're speaking to. So it's something that I'm really passionate about, and I'm really excited that we're talking about this today and can really give some personal feedback when it comes to crafting your pitch. Awesome. So now we're going to take some time. We're going to go back into those great breakout rooms. And I want you to really hone in on your individual organization, your individual program, creating your elevator pitch for a local elected official. So same thing, instead of making up a group one, you're going to focus on your individual one. And then we're going to come back. And I would like to hear at least one of an elevator pitch from an organization or a program. So we're going to take just a few minutes to go back to those breakout groups. All right, I think we have everyone back. So welcome back again. So for now, we're in round two. Do we have anyone that would like to share their individual elevator pitch? You can either unmute yourself or you can drop it in the chat. And remember, this is a safe space. We're all here to help and support. So even if it's not finished, even if it's just 1 or 2 lines or you're stuck on something, maybe we can help you work on your elevator pitch together. So even if it's not completed, we have enough time where we can actually work on it together. Any takers, anybody that just want to share things about their program, and we can work on, like I said, we can work on crafting it together. Or is there anyone that is working on either having a scheduled meeting with a local official, having a, well, we're towards the end of the school year, so maybe summer programming, or thinking about that fall programming coming up, open house, orientation.
So one of the things you pointed out is that creating these pitches is a bit of a work in progress, and that it alters and depends on the audience that you're working with. How do you go about revising and thinking through how you're going to adjust or change the pitch so that it fits the particular group that you're talking to?
What a great question, Alexis. So I think having those key points with your elevator pitch is good to keep, your name, the name of your program, how many students you serve, and what grades they serve. It's kind of like your guideline that will probably be in all your elevator pitches or all your messaging, no matter who you're speaking to. So that's key. So that's pretty much half of your pitch right there. So you have to think of like the rest of the 15 seconds. So like I said, just practicing and thinking of whoever you're speaking to is going to be helpful. I know before I had like open houses or orientations, I used to look at how many students do we have enrolled or have right now that are interested? How many students are we trying to get? So if I know, I used to run a program that was kindergarten through 5th grade. And usually the younger spots were always filled and we had trouble filling the older spots. So knowing what older kids were interested in, because sometimes when you're talking to the parents, the kids are also right there too. So having to be a little creative to kind of hit something that the parent would be interested in and the kid would be interested in as well was something that was always my go-to. So a lot of parents like hearing that the program was safe and that we provided transportation. And then of course, the program that I was operating was free. Well, it was at no cost to the parents. So that was like the key points I always hit with parents. Kids, I let them know that we served a lunch and a snack every day. I let them know about all the activities we have during the that school program, and that, I remind them that it's a safe space for them to hang out with their friends after school. So I think just making sure that you are kind of rehearsing this all the time will help with the natural state of it just flowing, and really knowing, who you're speaking to, and just having one or two statistics always in your mind will be helpful too. Let's see, we have something in the chat. Yes, getting ready for our August meeting for our school directors, getting staff excited about coming back from summer break. Okay, awesome. So with that, does that entail like working on messaging with your after school directors? So whether there be any like trainings or sessions or conversations about like, how are you, I guess this is a two-part question I have now. Sherry, we're speaking now, me and you, and hopefully I'm pronouncing your name right, Sherry. Yes, trainings. Okay, perfect. So are they working on any type of messaging to get students excited for coming back from break? Are you all working on any messaging to talk to your directors to get them excited about getting their students excited to come back? It's kind of a twofold question. I'm just curious to know. Yes, talking to directors. Yes, Amy, that's a great point. And honestly, when we've been having these presentations, that's something that's came up in our recent couple of presentations we have, is trying to fill staff. That is a real issue. Trying to find staff, trying to keep staff retention. That's another thing too. So once you find them, you got to figure out how to keep them. So, and we did a presentation, I think maybe a month or so ago for this group, and that's what we actually focused on. So instead of focusing on speaking to an elected official, one of the rounds was, how do you get someone to sign up for your program? Like, what are you going to say? So different things that came up were speaking about the incentives that you have for your program. Like, what are some of the benefits? What are the hours of your program? Why should someone sign up to work for your program? So that is definitely an issue. And honestly, probably one of the shifting elevator pitch messaging that we're working on now is just trying to figure out how to find these folks and keep them. I know that was a struggle for me when I was a program director. And I can only imagine now when it comes to running a program, having to try to find staff and keep them, and find someone of quality too, because that's important as well. You just don't want to have anyone working, with your students in a program. So you want to make sure that you're trying to find ways to reel folks in and get them to, sign up and work for your program. I agree, keeping staff who enjoys children. Yes, you would think people that sign up, to work in the after school program actually enjoy working with kids. I've seen firsthand that's not always the case. So that's something that you definitely want to make sure that, is coming across, that you want to keep staff who enjoys working with kids. Anybody else that just want to share about their programming or what they're working on, or additional thoughts of what we're talking about now when it comes to creating messaging, or any other messaging that you're curious to craft? So like I said, we're speaking about filling staff positions now. Any other audience member that you're thinking of, or any other messaging that you're working on crafting for your upcoming events? All right, well, I take the silence that we've done a great job presenting this information to you all about messaging. And I hope this was super, super helpful. Like I said, it's something that you just have to work on, practice, it'll become natural. Remember the tips that we provided before, and, things will get better, especially when it comes to finding folks to work for your program. I believe it will. So thank you so much for your time. And I'm going to pass it back to Alexis to wrap us up for today.
Sure. Thanks, Tiana. So just couple things. There are numerous ways to reach out to us. Follow us on social media at Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, where we have continuous updates and information. And feel free to subscribe to our e-newsletter. The link is listed below there to be able to find out the latest information from the After School Alliance, including information about webinars that we're hosting and policy information as well. And so then I think yep, here we go. You can also reach out directly to us if you have any questions as well. Our emails are up there. And as Tiana said, it's been a pleasure speaking to all of you this afternoon. Best of luck as you continue on your journeys of really promoting and supporting after school programs. Don't hesitate to reach out to us if you want to run by or have any questions for us. And thank you again for all the incredible work that you do with children and youth across the country every single day in your after school and summer learning programs. You inspire us. We're just here to share information with you, but it's really all of you that are doing the incredible work each day. So thank you.
Thank you all so much for that wonderful presentation. There was so much good information in there. And thank you to everyone who joined us today for taking time out of your busy schedule. I put a link in the chat for our survey. Please take a moment to fill that out. And we hope you'll join us next week for another webinar in this series. Again, registration is open now for the Beyond School Hours Conference, which is in Orlando, Florida this year from February 9th to 12th. And we hope that we'll see you there. Thanks again to Alexis and Tiana and Sophie and to all of you for joining us today. And I hope to see you again next week.